a slightly different opinion. Joining us for this debate is Solicitor Nick Freeman, a friend of the show. Nick, thanks for giving us your time, as always.
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, Alexis.
Look, what do you make of this appointment? Do you really think that we need to be paying a minister to attend cabinet in order to be the minister for so-called common sense? Does this say that sort of we've lost common sense and we need a minister to get it back?
Well, it's up there with the Ministry of Silly Walks, isn't it, in the Monty Python sketch? It's a real sad indictment that we're actually having this discussion, because you would like to think that any minister that passes a policy and that ultimately comes into legislation or just remains policy would have common sense attached to it. But what's happened is, because of the certain agenda of, in my view, a minority of people, things have been stretched to a ridiculous state, and common sense has left the room. And we shouldn't need this. It is ridiculous that we need it. Okay. Every ministry should have its own common sense to attach to every policy. Okay. But common sense has been distorted by a tiny minority. So, for example, Esther McVey, her appointment is designed to placate the right, without question, in the sacking of Suella Braverman. But she's there to deal with specific problems. If I can give you an example, for example, diversity training. She says one of her particular functions would be to reduce the number of days that businesses, including my own business, will spend. Hello.
We're still with us.
We'll spend dealing with diversity training. So she aims to reduce the number of days. That will save the economy £500 million a year. As a lawyer, I have to fill in a form that specifies my sexuality, etc., etc. Many professions do. That probably isn't appropriate to be a good lawyer. And I think she aims to tackle and make these aspects, which are necessary, but make them proportionate. At the moment, they've tilted to such an extent that you think, actually, where's the sensibility in this? It is ridiculous. Where's the wisdom? Where's the intuitive that's attached to this? What are we trying to achieve? Now, as I say, we shouldn't need this, but because of the agenda of a small minority of people that have distorted policies and distorted their own causes, Nick, we need something to balance it. And I think that's a specific purpose to call it out.
You made your point. Let me go back to Shola, because you're a lawyer too.
Yes.
Are things like diversity training, filling in forms, are they getting in the way?
Of course not. I was actually nodding to what Nick was saying until he used this as an example, because you can't be a lawyer in vacuum. Mm-hmm. The reason why diversity training became important is because even in law firms, in any workplace and workspace, all of the issues that affect us in our social and cultural environment are brought into the workspace, which is why it's necessary to have this training, this openness, this transparency. So to use this as an example and to tell me that a minister is necessary to cut down the hours and to try to back it up with money, knowing fully well that diversity in itself and inclusion actually bring in a whole lot of commercial value to businesses, because we begin to work better together and we are more inclusive. So I don't agree with that.
All right, let me pause you there. Let's find out what people are saying at home. Pete has called in from Surrey. Pete, good afternoon. What would you like to say? Do you think we really need to be paying for a minister to attend cabinet to make sure that all policies that come out of the government have got common sense attached to them?
Absolutely not. We don't need a minister for common sense. What we do need is a prime minister with common sense. So what I would say is, Nigel, go and get in the jungle, win it, get out.
God, this has taken a turn that I didn't expect. So you think Nigel Farage should lead the country because he's got all the common sense?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, dear.
He speaks common sense, I'm sorry, I've been a Conservative all my life.
Right.
But I'm just sick of the politics at the moment.
Well, maybe, that bridge that they come out at the end, maybe that could just keep going all the way to number 10.
To number 10 for Australia. Pete, what's made you change your mind? You said you've been a Conservative. Was it yesterday's reshuffle that did it?
Well, I actually thought Suella Braverman spoke quite a lot of common sense.
Oh, my God.
I thought you would say that. Yeah.
Jesus, give me strength.
Yeah.
And I just think with Sunak and Starmer my God, I mean, I'd prefer Sunak over Starmer,
Right.
but just need someone.
Can I just say?
We hang on a second. We need a prime minister with common sense.
Okay. All right, you've made that point. Go on, Charlotte.
I think Pete makes a perfect case for why common sense is not common, okay? I agree with him that we need a prime minister with common sense, but bringing people like Nigel Farage and Suella Braverman as epitomizing common sense is nonsense. It tells you that common sense has a whole different agenda when it comes to the right wing of this society. Common sense is a word Boris Johnson kept using during the pandemic. Oh, we just trust people with their common sense and nobody will get COVID. This is kind of nonsense that has pervaded the society.
I think Pete makes one point in terms of how politics will now look to the public. If you look at opposite sides of the bench at PMQs, you'll see Starmer, Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper. On the other side, you're going to see Sunak, Hunt, Cameron. These are very technocratic people.
Yeah.
Now, people might not like firebrands on other sides, but we have moved to, a lot of people be wondering, whether it's different cheeks of the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete. I mean, some people may say that the people that oozed so-called common sense, and I'm sort of playing devil's advocate here, people like Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Suella Braverman, they've all had a go. They've all had a go.
And it's a lack of competence, actually. They do represent a constituency in Britain. They say things that people agree with, but they've all done things in office which lost them credibility.
But that's conflating difference of opinion with common sense. So common sense is not about having an opinion
agreeing with someone.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Let's find out what Robin's saying. Robin in Gloucestershire. Robin, good afternoon.
Hi. Really feeling your pain, Shona, and despair, because common sense, where the hell has common sense got us? It's got us into so much trouble. The previous caller sums up. If that's common sense, we don't need it. What we need is somebody who's very, very aware. Really, really aware. And understands what's the problem with understanding what being woke is? You're either awake or you're asleep. Most people who talk about common sense are asleep.
Well, Robin, how about Nick's point that there are obstacles, some see it, put in place for companies that have to sort of tick boxes in order to appear to have done all their diversity training, or that's reducing their capacity to spend money on other areas of the business. They're draining money. That somehow we need to, use the common sense to save money, but at the same time be woke to the needs of people in the workplace. Do we not need somebody who just makes sure that all the bits that we put in front of people in order to tick those boxes actually work for the good of everybody?
Well, it's either accountancy or you work for the best things, for the best of people. If this is about money, then I think we need to have another look at our values.
Okay. All right, Robin, thank you. I'm going to leave it there.
Robin, well said.
Very strong call. Nick, just before we go, we heard from Pete earlier. The king of common sense is currently going to be spending some time eating bugs in the jungle. Would you like Nigel Farage to be in charge? You're a fan of common sense. Do you think he's got all of it?
Well, Alexis, common sense means that what it illustrates is common sense means lots of different things to different people. Common sense to me is what is sensible, what makes sense. And obviously, I like Nigel Farage. I like a lot of his policies, and he's a very bright, intelligent guy, and I wish him a very happy celebrity trip. Sorry, Shona. Whether or not he should be Prime Minister, I don't think he actually wants that gig. And I think before we discuss it, we should ask him, do you want the gig? I think the answer will be a resounding no.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I'm going to leave it there. Nick, thank you as always.